Howdy y'all, it's JR Gamer. Welcome back to the Gamingverse, your variety gaming channel for the average gamer. If this is your first time here and you're looking for a relaxing space to evaluate gameplay, inspiration for your own projects, or a dose of daily awful dad jokes, don't forget to subscribe to the channel right now. And while you're at it, click on the bell to get notified when I upload more videos. Howdy y'all. Welcome back to episode 2 of Texas Adventure. One more episode and it becomes a series. Today guys, I want to talk to you about trains, transportation around the park. So I figured the first thing I needed to do is how are people going to get around the park? It's a pretty big area and there's going to be a lot of things that they want to see and they want to ride. Problem was that ultimately, yes, everybody uses paths and they'll walk everywhere, but having something that will get people from point A to point B a little bit quicker or with more scenery or gives them an opportunity to actually travel the entire park, I thought was a good idea. And I didn't want the train to be just a scenic route. I wanted it to be practical, a transportation mode, one of several that I wanted to put in the park. The other thing about trains and transportation is that trains and transportation are a big part of Texas. There are railroad tracks all over Texas, and a lot of the towns that were built in Texas, especially in the Old West, were on train rails. So they were on the train tracks for them to be able to grow, for them to get their supplies, for them to be able to send whatever it is that they were producing in West Texas, particularly coal and oil, which was some of the big things that are being produced out there. So there's train tracks all over Texas, and all the rails kind of come into San Antonio. San Antonio was the center of all those rails. So there's big rail yards in San Antonio and in Fort Worth, where cattle used to be driven up to Fort Worth and then put on trains and train tracks and moved all over the country. So for Texas, train was transportation back in the day, and for this park, I wanted it to be both a ride, be scenic, and have for people to be able to see stuff, but also a practical mode of transportation for them as well. So that's the first thing I decided I was going to build. Now, where to build it? Well, I wanted to start off with the first area that I wanted to start building rides on. And I wanted to have the train in place because I think that it would drive the theme of that area to where I wanted it to go. So I started off with basically putting the track down kind of as a layout of where I wanted the track to go, and then plopping down the first train station. And that train station would be right off of that first entrance to the left. People would go and be able to ride that train as they pass that first attraction into the park. That was kind of the idea. That was kind of the layout that I had for the park, was giving people an opportunity to quickly get on the train if they wanted to go to the back of the park right off the bat and ride some of the bigger rides or rides that were not at the front of the park. So I gave them that opportunity, put a small ride between the entrance and the station so that there's something there, but give them access to that station right away. And that's what I did, is I based on my layout of the park, I decided to plop down the first train station. And like I said, that train station it's going to galvanize the theme of that area of the park. In this case, I wanted the theme to be the southwest of Texas. Now, Southwest Texas is viewed as the Old West. The people have a vision of cowboys and Indians, ruggedness, dry, desert conditions, etc., etc., etc. And some of it is true and some of it is not. Southwest Texas is a dry area. It's hot in the summer, but it does have a lot of vegetation. Although it's not trees and forests and we have down here, or I lived in Southwest Texas, so we had pecan trees and we had some oaks that would survive, but we had a lot of mesquite trees. They don't grow very tall, but we had a lot of those kinds of trees in Southwest Texas. Of course, we had a lot of brush, and a lot of different types of cactus, and so I wanted to incorporate that kind of theme into the train station. I wanted it to be a Southwest kind of feel, for the train station. And so that's kind of where I wanted to go. I wanted to go with a dry, semi-arid climate with, semi-tall trees, maybe a lot of brush, a lot of kind of desert type colors there. And so the theme of that station was going to be Southwest-ish. Okay, and yes, I was going to tie it into an old Western theme, which is something that that Planet Coaster really revolves around. They have a lot of that Western theme type thing, and so it made it very easy for me to create that Western Southwest feel, because it already had that Western theme built into it, allowing me to be able to do this. So the idea was to incorporate those colors, those textures of the Southwest into the station. And so, I changed the color of the original train because I wanted to give it a more Southwest or Texas feel to it. So I put the more browns colors in there. And then, of course, I started building the station around the train, for people to be under something. And so I used those things that were kind of Southwest to me, that I see that I saw growing up, which was the roofs made out of clay tiles, which is what I put as the roof for the station. You see them all over the Southwest, predominantly now in New Mexico, but in the old days, I mean, there's still some roofs in my hometown that are clay tile, that are built in that style. And so I wanted to incorporate that style into the station. So I put up a clay roof for the train to sit under in the station. And so that's kind of the theme that I wanted to do. And I wanted to incorporate the Western elements into the station. Clay roofs, browns, and big old wooden poles holding up the roofs. Later on you'll see the adobe. In fact, my own house, where I lived till I was 18, portions of that house were over 100 years old, and they were made out of adobe, except that what they used to create the adobe, they also used mesh wire in those times. It's not the old adobe houses that are predominantly adobe brick. It was a house made with adobe, but it had mesh wire as a base. So I wanted to incorporate that adobe house into the station. So I made it part of the queue. A lot of times, queues, in Planet Coaster, as part of the rides, you have to create a queue that has scenery. But how to incorporate that scenery and make it Southwest? And I said to myself, well, have them go through an adobe home, and for them to have that feel. And so what I did is I built an adobe house where the queue is going to go inside the house, and people would then, snake through the house and then come out the back into the train station. In this case, the house would be the actual train depot, per se, before you get on the train. So that was the idea of incorporating the Adobe Home into the theme, was to make it the train station, the train depot, before you get in on the train. And so keeping along with that theme, I wanted to bring in the Texas theme, and so I found those roses in a lot of these houses in Southwest Texas are overgrown with ivy. They're overgrown with plants. It's a decorative thing. It's that mixture of the Spanish, Southwest, Mexican, and Indian cultures that incorporate vines and into their homes, and allowing all the greenery to kind of grow around the property and grow along the side of houses. And so I wanted to get that theme in as well. So I found the roses and the vines, and started putting them into the depot itself, because it looked natural. It looked like home, basically. I remember my grandma had a vine that grew up on the side of the house, and it would, basically, and grandma would trim it, but not to the point where it would want to bring it down, but to make it look good along the side of the house. She had, I think it was an ivy, but it wasn't poison ivy, but it was an ivy that just kind of grew all along the sides of the house. It was a beautiful plant. And that's what I grew up with, and I wanted to incorporate those parts of Southwest Texas that I lived with. And so that's what I did. And then, Texas, the flower of Texas is the yellow rose. So I changed all the flowers, the roses, into yellow roses. Just put a touch of Texas into the theme. I wanted to incorporate that part of Texas, give it that theme of the yellow rose of Texas. Really loved that. I wanted that play at Southwest Texas, because I was not just incorporating my area of Texas. I was incorporating South and West Texas, which, believe it or not, is kind of a line of demarcation. The way homes are built going towards West Texas compared to Southwest Texas is very different, because the climate it gets drier as you go west towards West Texas, and so the climate kind of changes. Although Southwest Texas is kind of arid and allows for a lot of things to grow, as you continue west, there's less trees, there's more bushes, more cacti, more low brush than there is in Southwest Texas, where you still have enough rainfall to allow for the growth of much larger trees, like pecan trees, for example, or oak trees. And so it's really interesting, that dynamic as you move west in Texas, how the drier climate starts eating up a lot of the moisture, and so you get a lot of less high vegetation and a lot more low vegetation. And I wanted to incorporate that into the station, and I wanted the station, the depot, to be big enough that I could fit at least 2 rounds of the queue. So I expanded it a little bit in order to allow for that. But that was kind of the idea of what I was going for here in the station, is to create that feel of Southwest West kind of depot, where people would understand that they're in the Rio Grande area. That's basically what the theme of this was, and this was going to be the Rio Grande train station, train depot. And that's kind of where I was headed with this, is incorporating uh, the the architecture, the feel of all those communities along the Rio Grande that comes in all the way from El Paso, Texas, all the way down to Brownsville, and all that area. Although Brownsville is more of a East Texas or South Texas kind of feel, it still has that arid feel to it, although it's closer to the coast. But the Southwest Texas feel, which is very arid, very dry, and the West Texas feel that is very dry, those are the two things that I want to incorporate into this. So I wanted to give it that theme, and I think that's what I'm trying to capture here with the depot, incorporating those Old West kind of feel to it. And that was kind of the idea here. The build, I learned, trial and error. As you saw, there was a lot of moving parts, and it took me a while to kind of get this into the way I wanted it. Especially the Adobe Depot, it just took a while for me to really put it together how I wanted it to put together, and incorporate those scenery parts. And it's not completely finished at the end of this video. As I continue to build out the park, I've been incorporating other pieces into the depot. Just, I get ideas and say, okay, let's go back to the station, and what else can I incorporate here? And I've done that a couple of times as I've been building the park, because there's a piece or there's something that I see on the workshop that kind of fits the theme that I want for the station, and I'm like, well, let me go back and change it. It's like it's never done, but there's always something there that I want to incorporate into the process of building this station. And again, the theme of the ivies and the hanging plants is something very important to that Southwest Texas feel. Homes were just filled with ivies along their walls, and it was a natural thing for people to allow that to happen. Here I'm looking for a sign, I believe, and I wasn't very familiar with the signage at the time with Plant Coaster, so I really didn't find a sign that I liked. So I moved on and started working on the scene itself, the plants, the vegetation, the rock formations. And here's where I go into kind of West Texas. West Texas is more arid, it's more mountainy, it's more rocky than Southwest Texas, and so I incorporated some of that West Texas feel by putting big boulders down as part of the process, as part of the scene, to incorporate that feel of rockiness and hilliness and mountainous area. And I use the rocks as kind of to break up the queue from the exit path, so that there's scenery on both sides of the property, and both sides, as people are coming in and as people are leaving the train, they get a feel for that scenery. And so I use the rocks both as a barrier, but also as part of the theme of the Southwest Texas theme, mostly incorporating the West Texas more rocky, more hilly terrain. It's what I was what I was creating here with these rock formations, is to create that feel of West Texas, and I'm going to incorporate some vegetation that is part of that that theme. The low bushes, the cacti, which is what I'm putting down right now. There's a lot of these cactus plants in West Texas. They're both great for building fences. People won't go through a cacti fence, but they're also good food. The cactus plant is actually food in Southwest Texas, and in Mexico it's called nopal. And you make nopalitos with eggs, you make nopalitos in salsa. So it's a very versatile plant, and the bulb, the flower itself, is also a delicacy in Texas and in Mexico. So I put down those themes. Put down a dry tree because of course there's vegetation and it's an arid place, and there's going to be some dead trees out there. And then I wanted to create put some of this type of cactus grows on the West Texas, towards El Paso, towards the more arid side of Texas, is what you see there. Here I just wanted to create a barrier between whatever I was going to put next to it and the station, just kind of create a visual barrier on both sides of the station and kind of isolate the station. And I used the long pine trees just as a barrier. It's not part of the theme of the station. It's more of a creating a visual barrier between one side of the ride and the other side of the ride, so that it isolated the station as its own ride. That was kind of what I tried to do there, is incorporate that aspect of it. And here, now I'm going to start putting down that queue, which is going to go into the depot and snake around the depot, inside the depot, and then go out the front door of the depot. And so that way people get a feel for, as they walk into the queue and they have a scene of both the adobe home that I've created, but also the theme that I tried to create inside of that queue. And you're not going to see that theme in here. Like I said, I started working with that theme later on. I left basically the queue kind of bare for now, because I couldn't find the pieces that I wanted. I hadn't gone to the workshop. I didn't really understand the workshop yet, so I hadn't gone to the workshop and found some of those pieces that are in there that are pieces that would fit in the queue that I really liked. So I kind of left it blank, left it bare for now, and just left the depot open until I fully find how things incorporated. Again, learning as I go. I put down a ticket booth for whatever reason, I don't know. I wasn't sure whether by connecting the queue straight to the path created the ticket booth. I just saw a ticket booth on the UI, and I grabbed it and put it there. Eventually I realized that that's not the way it works, but for now that's what I wanted. On the other side, the exit path, I wanted it to be very natural, and so that's what I did, is created a very natural path. When you see the theatrical version of this, it's going to be a little more put together, because it's further on in the process. And so when it comes up, you'll see that it's got the theme is more put together. I did some edits that are not that are not here in this original process, but this was the first attraction in the Texas Adventure, and I wanted you guys to see it. So here's the theatrical version.
Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like the content, click the like button below. Remember, if you're looking for a relaxing space to evaluate gameplay, inspiration for your own projects, or a dose of daily awful dad jokes, subscribe to the channel right now and click on the bell to get notified when I upload more videos. Until next time, adios.